Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking. I want to talk to you about a game called Battlescars today. Battlescars is a game that is an homage to the games of my youth. Games like Car Wars, games like Battletech, and even a little bit of Ogre thrown in. If you remember that Steve Jackson's games, and they did that Kickstarter, several years back now. Really, geez, is that far back? For the giant big box. I think my Ogre big box is up there. I don't know if you can see it or not. Probably not. But these are games that basically are different vehicles of different types. Cruising around some blasted terrain in some uninhabitable planet, trying to do their best to just blow the heck out of each other until, and you can have certain scenarios like, capture the flag or things like that, but you can just have a classic death match as well, last robot standing kind of thing. That's kind of the way I played it, just because that's how I used to play games like Car Wars and Battletech. This is a game, the setting of this is that it's in the far future, where corporations have just kind of taken over everything. And instead of the corporations doing battle over like valuable resources and things, they host these like basically not really blood sport games, because the people that partake in the games, the people that pilot the vehicles, they're created in such a way that they can't actually get hurt, but their vehicle can get destroyed, and obviously they want to like do well for their corporate sponsors so they can make money and this, that, and the other thing, and also gain the fame and glory of being like these fantastic pilots of these ships. This game, unlike like Car Wars, which technically Car Wars, they did have rules for boats and helicopters and semis and things like that. This particular game, it has cool big giant Titan ships like this. It has cool, if you can kind of tell, like a classic mech like so. I think here is a cool big like battle van, if you will, that you can have. There's even there's some flying units that you can have that are be on these posts, and there's even some of these like really cool kind of tiny you can't really see that pretty well, but these like Mad Max style one little car with some rocket launchers strapped on its back, and those actually come in little groups, little squads, so the cars can drive around with each other and try to make a menace of themselves as they go. At its heart, this game is just a bunch of dice and a bunch of tactical and strategic decisions, but there's a lot of things about this game that really make it stand out in comparison to those games of my youth, and also the games that other games like this of this genre that are currently out there for me to play. One of the things I really like, and I'll explain this a little bit in the how to play portion of this video, and that isn't going to be really an exhaustive how to play. I just want to highlight on some of the major things that kind of make this game fun. But one of the things I really like about the game is the initiative system. Like, there's so many different other games that would just have a you go, I go aspect. It's like, I'm a big Warhammer player. at least I was before I got cooped up inside the house, like I have been for like almost the last year. But Warhammer to me was, like, yeah, okay, you just roll a dice, you goes first. It's about I go, and then you go, then I go, then you go. And that works, right? But I always kind of wanted more when it comes to like determining who will be the one who can attack first, who's going to be the one that's going to figure out their defense and what have you, and being able to kind of strategize that like this game allows you to do is something I really like. Another thing that I really like about this game is the modular aspect. Now, lots of games out there, like my old Battletech and Car Wars, you were able to design your own battle mech and you were able to design your own car, but once you were done, you were done. If you put a couple of machine guns on your motorcycle and gave yourself a rocket launcher, and that was it. If you got into the arena and you weren't able to, be able to hit a certain, like maybe set fire to somebody like you wanted to because they have fireproof armor, or they were just too fast and you couldn't catch up, nothing you could do. You just had to do the best you possibly could with what you had. But that isn't the case with this game, because yes, you do get to kind of design these things that you pilot and cruise around. But each one of them has these cool things called towers. These towers, I'm just going to kind of unscrew this real quick. These towers allow you to actually modular the additions you have. And there's actually these spots, these pegs, where you're allowed to like put the different weapons. You probably can't see that, but it's like this little tiny like rocket launcher that I'm putting in there. Now, I mean, and so there you can, and then but later on, like oh, I don't want to use that anymore. I want to switch that over, to the laser turret that I have. Well, then you reach in here and you grab a laser turret, and you can swap that out, and you'd put a new thing in there. Now, you don't have to. I mean, you could, because once I show you the game, you're going to see how this works. But when you swap out the different towers or the turrets, basically, that these things have, it's a card that delineates what it can do and the actions that it has, and you're able to determine that just by the card itself. But the immersion of being able to actually swap those things out and change them, and actually change what your vehicle looks like, is a really nice touch, and something that I really liked a lot. But anyway, I'm kind of already getting into the gameplay, which I really didn't want to do, but sometimes these things get away from me. So let me dive in. Like I said, I'm not going to go like a full width and breadth. I'm actually just going to kind of show a map and just kind of make some scenarios up, so you can kind of just see how the combat works and see how things happen, and give you a good overview of how how activation works and how the initiative system works, which is, like I said, the thing I really like about the game is the initiative system. And then we'll come back here, and I'll give you some more final thoughts. And hopefully along the way, this will be a game that you might be intrigued by, and you might want to go check out the Kickstarter page and see, if this is something that, you'd want to have on your table and be able to play yourself. All right, let's do it. Alright, so this is Battlescars. I'm going to give you a brief overview of how the game is played and some of the core mechanisms along the way. I will tell you that normally the maps aren't going to be this small. You could play with a map this small if you wanted to, but generally when I played the game, I definitely expanded this out. Just for the sake of having everything on the camera at the one time, I did make a map with only these 4 squares involved with it. Also, I should mention that this is kind of a team versus team game, so I normally wouldn't have all of the loadouts right in a row. Like, my opponent would have their loadouts over there, I would have my loadouts over here, and those would be separated. So but I just for the sake of being able to see everything and being able to point out everything, I have everything set up over on this side. All right, and also, normally you would have starting areas where all of the mechs begin and then enter into the battlefield, but I've just kind of set things up to roll. All this terrain that you see around here, that is stuff that will obviously it'll obstruct line of sight. It is immovable. You can't drive through it. There are some units that can fly that will be able to go over it, but for the most part, it is there to like basically impede movement, but also to give you some tactical advantages of like using it to like prevent your opponents from being able to either shoot you or have a tougher time in trying to do damage to you as well. But that is set up by the players before the game begins, and so you will, like, between you and the other players, you'll take turns placing those items onto the board to get those into place. I'm going to kind of dive into all these different loadouts and these different vehicles that I've placed out here and kind of describe how that goes. But before I do that, I should mention a couple things. One, when you're deciding what scenario you want to play, you have several different options that you want to do. Capture the flag, come home, critical, bulldog run, whatever. There's several of these that are available Within the game, you and the other players can decide what you want to play at any given time. If you want to, you can just do what I do, which is just do some deathmatch, which is just everybody against everybody. Last robot standing is the winner. Also, each player will be able to choose a team captain. Team captains, each of them have a cool little backstory that you can read about that kind of puts them into this world of this blood sport that you're playing. But each one of these captains will have 2 special powers, one that they can use every single turn and one they can use once per game, and they're listed on there. Once you use your once per game power, you will flip the card over to show that it has been used and that you can't use it again going forward. I'll talk a little bit more about the leaders in my final thoughts, but it's definitely a cool aspect of the game, and you know, obviously the swapping in and out of all of those different powers with the different the vehicles that are out there really make the game change up and make the game variable, and they change things up quite a bit. So when you start the game, you and the other players will determine a certain point value that you want to play with. You know, it's suggested that you don't go anything lower than a 5. This is a 5-point game that I have set up in front of me right now. It's suggested you don't go any lower than that, but you could have, you know, like a 20-point game if you wanted, and everybody's going to have tons of vehicles out here, and the battle's going to last. Obviously, the more vehicles that are out here, the longer the game's going to be, right? And so you just have to keep that in mind when you're trying to decide how much time you have and what level of play that you're going to want to enjoy. So once you've determined what you want to, how many points you want to play, you're going to start choosing vehicles. One of the things that's very important about this game is that there are like no factions, right? There's no factions of vehicles. There's nothing preventing you from choosing whatever vehicles you want. I mean, and you'll kind of go round robin and picking the vehicles you want to to employ out on the battlefield. But there's no such a situation where it's like, oh, that particular vehicle can't go with that particular vehicle. There's nothing like that at all. You can just put in whatever you like and create your team however you like. So each vehicle will have like it's like kind of stat card, which is what this card is. On the stat card, it'll list off some information over here. It'll tell you how many points this costs. Like this big Titan will cost 3 points if you want to employ it. It'll list off how tall it is. Like, you know, the how big a vehicle is will determine sometimes whether or not it is obstructed by the terrain that is out there, and also like whether or not certain things can either shoot certain things or other things can shoot it. That will come into play. It'll have a cargo hold, and the cargo hold is important because you're going to build a loadout for each one of these vehicles, and you're going to, and each one of them has like a tower. And well, not all of them do, but for the most part, most of them will have a tower. And the tower is kind of like a turret. And the tower, you can put different weapons or different support modules in there. But one of the things is that you're able to, if you have vehicles that have cargo, you're able to have different towers and different modules available to you, and then as the game progresses, you're able to modularly swap those particular pieces out to go with the flow of the game. So like, oh, I've got a really good weapon, but I need to repair, I need shields now. So I'm going to swap out that weapon and I'm going to add shields. So I have shields available to me. Things like that, that you'll be doing on the fly as the game progresses. One of the things I really like about this game as well. So that's that. The bottom stat here, which is a 2, that's the max speed. And so the Titan, you know, has a max speed of 2. It's not horrible, but it's not great either. So then in the middle, there's some basic powers that they have that'll tell you. Most of those are going to be like movement powers that they have, and also like the pass action. The pass action is a very important action because when you pass on your turn, what you will do is you will get a token that's basically like this little token right here, and you'll be able to store those. And then later on, when another one of your units goes, they may have the ability to use that past or stored action to add to the actions that they have. And so that's kind of like this tactical and strategy part of the game, that it really rewards forward thinking and thinking beyond the box, and like thinking like a turn or two ahead or an activation or two ahead, trying to prep yourself for a big turn. So down here, this is this little 6 here. It says that 6 criticals will destroy this particular vehicle. So each part of a vehicle, and then some vehicles have 3 parts, some vehicles are just one thing. Some vehicles are a squad of like 3 or 4 smaller vehicles, and then like as the vehicles get destroyed, you remove those from the squad. But in this particular case, this is the Titan. It has 3 spots, 1, 2, and 3, and each spot will have a armor value here, and that's basically like the hit points of it. And so this has 10 hit points, and as this takes damage, you'll add damage tokens to it as it takes damage. Once you hit 10, you'll remove the damage that's on there. Like, and mind you, if there was like 11 damage on there, you remove 10, because like let's say you had 9 damage and you took 2 more, you go to 11. You remove 10, you leave the 1 on there, and then you would add a critical token to that spot, like so. If it ever takes all the criticals full up, it's destroyed and it's flipped over to show that those 3 criticals. Then you get some little bonuses for having it destroyed as well. Nothing great, mind you, but it's one of those things where it's like you don't lose everything if it's destroyed. But if you ever get a situation where like you had 2 of these, if you had 6 criticals amongst all 3 of the parts of that particular vehicle, then the Titan would be destroyed and would be out of the game, and that's how that works. Some of the vehicles will be smaller. Let's take a look at this Bulldog. This is like kind of like a battle van. I think they call it a Kodiak truck, actually. You can see it has it costs 1. It only has a height of 1. It has a cargo of 1, but it has a speed of 3, so it has a little bit more mobility. And it only has a 2 critical action. So those are the big differences. You can see that the vehicles themselves offer a lot of different changes and what have you. Here's the Ravage. This is a Lancer assault mech. It has a cost of 2, but the reason I want to show you this is just that I wanted to show you each vehicle is going to have a little chain here like this. And these are, when you activate it from left to right, you will activate each one of these little powers, these little actions that are located on your on your vehicle. And it will start with this a blue, and then it'll go to this green, and then a yellow, and a green. Inside each of those circles, there's going to be a point total, and that is the number of points that you can spend on an action. Either there's an action here on the vehicle itself, or like the loadout or the weapon that you've placed on it will have actions on it as well. And as long as you can pay for the action that's located on there by spending the points, then you can activate that particular ability or weapon or whatever. Blue tends to be kind of like a preparatory or like a support action. Usually, like this one has like a shields ability, so like you'd be able to activate your shields using it. Green tends to be movement. It isn't always movement, but it tends to be movement, and usually the movement will be located here, whether or not like you're going to boost or you're going to reposition or whatever. And then orange tends to be attacks. You'll notice, and you might not be able to see it, but these orange spots here have a 2+. What that means is that there's 2 action points, but there's also a plus. If you have action points in your pool, remember you get these by passing. If one of your units passes on their for one of their orange actions, you will get an action token. And those can be used by any other vehicle, including the vehicle that passes. But when you pass and you gain that token, then you can add that token to a plus action later, which then will allow you to maybe do something like these only have 2 action points, but say you had a weapon that needed 3 to activate a certain power, you'd be able to use that action point that you passed to gain to add to the 2 to get to 3, so then you could take that action. So I mean, so once again, these are things that like each one of the vehicles is going to have a different like action row, if you will, and have different options available to it. And this is where the tactics and the strategy and determining when you're going to make those attacks and how you're going to process those really come into play and make for a very, very fun game. But okay, so that's that. Let's move forward a little bit just so I can kind of show you some of the actions and also show you how the game actually handles initiative and handles who goes first and how it works. Now, this is probably like one of the best things about the game. I mean, the game's awesome, but one of the best things, one of the things that really makes it awesome is this. And one of the things I really enjoy about it is this activation, this initiative activation process. So instead of just rolling a die and seeing who goes first, what you do is you're going to total up the number of trackers each player has. Now, trackers are these. They're just vehicles. So in this case, there's 3 trackers over there, and we have 2 trackers over here. So what we do, and you have like kind of a mathematical equation you have to do. So you take the number of trackers, the maximum number of trackers, one person, whoever has the most. So this team has 3 trackers. You take that times 2, making 6, and then you add 2, making it 8. And so what then you're going to do is there's these cards that are these initiative cards, and you're going to take 1 through 8 of these cards, and you're going to shuffle them up, and you're going to deal out 1 for each. Like you're gonna deal these out to each player, but the player that doesn't have the max number of trackers is going to have to discard some of their cards, and they're going to have to take these pass cards instead. So let's show how that works. Okay, so this team has 3, so they're going to get 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. This player has 2, but they're also going to get 3. 1, 2, 3. And what this player is going to have to do is they're going to have to look at these cards and see, I got a 3, a 2, and a 6, and they're going to decide which one to get rid of. So they're going to get rid of the 2, but then they have to take a pass card instead, and those are going to be their initiative cards. Now, just seeing what this player has, we're like just to see real quick here. So they got the 1 and the 8 and the 7. But this player actually has a little bit of an advantage. 1, they know that the max number card is an 8. So they know if they want to, they can go first. And then if they have like the 7, they know that since they also have the 8, there's no way they can lose. They know they can go first twice in this particular action. And with this 1, with the 1, they also know they can purposely go last if they want to. So they're going to have a lot more actions. Now, why would you want to go last? Well, there's lots of reasons why you might want to go last. You might want to let somebody else move into range for your attacks. But more importantly, the loser of the initiative actually gets a bonus. They actually get a chance to repair some damage to one of their mechs, or take a free movement that as kind of like a, well, you didn't win the initiative, but here you can have this as a small benefit at this point. So so sometimes you'll want to lose initiative. So having the ability to do so on purpose, if you want to, is very, very important. It should be mentioned that like when you pass, that isn't the same as losing initiative. You're just passing. You're not doing anything that particular turn. All right. So like if this was the case, like they play the 8, and then like maybe this player just passes and just says, you know what, I'm not going to do anything this particular turn. I don't care. I want to see where you go and where you take your action. And then the other player is going to know that they still have 2 cards left over, obviously that have numbers on them that they're going to be playing for their initiative. No, and I love that. The initiative system just offers up so many different possibilities for how each player is going to handle their particular turn. But anyway, so let me just show you exactly how an activation works, and then I'm going to show you how like an attack works. All right, so say I was activating this Titan, and I wanted to take its action. So the first thing it has this 1 blue, but I don't have any loadout on my Titan that actually uses blue, so I can't use that at all. So the next thing I have is I have a 3+ on my orange. Well, which would be great because I actually have a couple of really long range weapons. I have a big shot weapon that has a range of 8, for attacks, and I also have this heavy shot weapon that's more of a close combat with a 1 to 3. I also have a repair loadout that I can use to repair myself, or I can actually use to repair like my friendly units that happen to be close enough for it to affect. But just for the sake of this particular situation, let's say we don't have any, nobody's winning anyway, so that 3 isn't going to do me any good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass, and I'm going to get an action, action token that maybe I can use later on. Now the big thing is that I got to think about, can I get close enough to another unit that I can be able to attack? And so if I know that I can attack something 8 spaces away, I got to start thinking, can I move? If I do my movement and I move forward, this particular with my one movement, I can do a boost of 2, which will allow me to move forward. Will I get within range? Probably not, but we'll have to see what happens. So in this particular case, what we're going to do is we're going to do a boost 2, and that's where these little templates come into play. So with the boost of 2, what I can do is I can go ahead and I can place this, and this is kind of nice that basically because of, you'll notice that there is this white circle there and there's this black circle there. Now if you notice, on each one of these units, there's white circles and black circles. And so what you will do is you'll just, very, very simply, you can just go, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to set myself up like so, because I can match those up. Now, and if you want to, like I said, you have the ability, since I was right here, I can set that up like this if I wanted to. If I wanted to turn and head in this direction, So, the templates. If you've ever played, if you played Car Wars, you're probably familiar with templates, and there's other games out there that have move templates as well. Definitely, you've probably seen things like that. Then, because of the fact that we moved, we're going to go ahead and we're going to place that 2 movement next to the next to my mech, or I can just place it here on my Titan to show that it has moved. And movement is important. Movement makes it tougher for people to shoot you. It makes it tougher for people to be able to obviously when you're moving about and not staying in one place, people can't zero in on you, and it gives you other benefits just game wise and mechanic wise. But the most important thing is obviously a moving target is tougher to hit, and then the game kind of encourages people to be kind of fast and reckless and what have you. Anyway, so I have this weapon, as I said, this big shot weapon. And I've got to figure out if I'm close enough here. I haven't even really counted this yet. So what you do for combat is you're going to count. So it's you're going to count the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But you also are going to count for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. So I am actually close enough to shoot that particular mech. Now, one of the things about this also is that if there is terrain in the way, like so, what I would do is I would count, once again, the hexes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is clear. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one is not. That piece of terrain would get in the way of my attack. So, but he would not have cover. So, basically, if one of the shortest distances between the mech that's attacking to the mech that is defending if one of them is clear, I can make the shot. If both of them are clear, it is unobstructed at all. If one is in the way, it is an obstructed shot, and they're going to get a little bit of a bonus to their defense. Now, just to play this out, let's just say that the other person had gone and they had moved, and so this had like a boost of 1 on it. So I know that it had moved. Sometimes you'll have situations where people will actually be forced to take certain actions that will like make them stop, or make them like there's repositioning actions that will actually like just make you swivel like your vehicles around, and you'll have to do that just because of the situation. When that happens, you're actually forced to put tokens on your particular mech, making it easier for them to be shot at, because it affords the players a chance to re-roll dice when they make their attacks. So there's lots of different factors as far as the tactics in the combat that you have to take advantage of. But in this situation, like I said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to just attack with this big shot weapon here. And the big shot weapon says for 68, I can. It's an anvil. It costs me 1 action point to do it, so I have plenty of action points to take this action. I'm going to roll 3 black dice for the attack, and then I'm going to and I get to re-roll if I roll a scar. So these 3 giant chunky black dice, which I appreciate that these are big and chunky, and so these dice will have blanks on them like this. They'll have numbers on them, which will be damage, and they'll also have like these scars on them. Scars will do certain things, like they will have different effects for different weapons and different situations. And this particular weapon, it's just telling me to re-roll, that particular, like re-roll that die. But anyway, we'll just roll these 3 dice. We'll see what happens. So that was not good at all. I got a blank, and I got 2 damage. Now the interesting thing is that this particular vehicle here, the Storm, actually has shields, and that you can see the shields are located by these 2 tokens here. And because it has these shields, it's going to absorb those 2 points of damage, and it's going to not be damaged at all. And even though I did hit it, it's nothing else. But I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself a little bit here, because of the fact that that vehicle is going to get a defense roll regardless. Now, besides the gear, you can also roll let me find that guy, an explosion effect, which is this. If you roll an explosion, it allows you to remove a red die for an attack. Red dice are attack dice just like black dice. However, black dice have better results than the red dice. A 2 times explode, which is also on this die. Let me find it. If you roll a 2 times explode, like so, that would allow you to remove either 2 red dice or 1 black die. So, like, let's say I rolled that 5, and just a 4 or whatever, and I rolled this, I could just say, you know what, we're removing the black die from the attack. So that's actually very helpful as well. And there is actually still a wild function on there as well. That's the wild sign right there. When you roll wild, you're allowed to pick whatever you want as the defender. You can pick whatever side you wish to be the result of your defense. The only big thing is, no matter how many yellow dice you roll for your defense, you only get to keep 1 and get 1 effect. Something to just keep in mind. All right, so let's say you're taking a bunch of damage, and let's for the sake of an argument, I'm just going to kind of move this up here just so you can kind of see. Let's say I rolled really well on that attack, and let's say I got like a 5, and I got another 5, and like I got a 4. Did some like huge amount of damage. Got a great roll for my attack. And then when they got that gear result so we're only going to reduce the damage by 3 or by 1. So I've done 13 points of total damage. Remember, I still have those 2 shields, and that would take effect. But I've done enough damage. I've done 11 total damage, and it has a 7 armor. So what's going to happen is, it's going to take 1 critical on there automatically, and then it's going to take another 4 points of damage, which we'll place on there like so. Now, you can take 4 criticals before that particular mech is destroyed. But one of the things that happens when you take a critical, you have to trigger a damage event. And when you trigger a damage event, you're going to take 2 yellow dice, and you're going to roll them, and you're going to consult a table. And so in this particular case, this means, so after you roll those 2 dice, each symbol has a different effect, and certain symbols can be combined to have greater effects. So when this happens, as the attacker, I would get to pick what I wanted to do. So what you want as the defender is you want to roll gears, because gears have no effect whatsoever. But this particular thing that happens here, the little like cross and the little action point token there, what I had to do is I either had to spend 1 action point or reduce my speed by 1, which that would reduce my speed down to nothing, and that would mean that unless I can get that particular unit activated, if it gets any more attacks, obviously it's going to be easier to be destroyed. And then the other one is that as a player, I can choose which side I want. So I could say deal explode 1 damage to target area. So if there was another unit next to it, like so, I could have kind of a big explosion, you know, and then we'd roll damage and we'd do damage to everything around that particular spot. Some of the other things that can happen is that if you can double up on things, like have a double up on these 2 explosions, you can destroy the target tower the weapon that it has in its tower. And so it no longer has that particular weapon. It has to then take an action to swap out and put a new tower on. It should be mentioned that like the car that has the fixed turret or the fixed tower, that can't happen to it. You can't destroy its weapon and make it useless. It's one of the effects. So instead, when that happened, you would just do an explosion damage in that situation. So critical hits are like have a way of having long-lasting effects and having kind of a domino effect to situations as they happen. So definitely something that obviously you want to try to avoid, and you want to try to avoid those things happening to you. All right, I wanted to show you one other thing that showed you that not all orange actions are necessarily attack actions. And I mentioned that like they can be used for different support things that you have. And I want to show you some other like towers here as well real quickly. But one of the towers that like I outfitted my Titan with was this like this repair bot basically, and then for 1 action point I can use an armor patch that if I can roll a gear on, I get 3 yellow dice and I roll a gear, then I can remove 2 damage. But here we have for 2 action points I can use a system patch and I can remove 1 damage if I roll a gear, but if I can somehow roll 3 gears I can remove a crit. So you can see here we have, I just kind of manufactured this, but my Lancer mech, this Ravage Lancer mech that I have, has sustained some heavy damage, has 4 damage, and has a crit on it. So what I can do is on my turn, and like if I wanted to, I can make up my mind, do I think that I can roll 3 gears, or do I want to repair 2 damage for the 4 that's on there? And like, you know, let's just take a shot here. And so, one of the things that like it might take a little bit of time to wrap your brain around is that there's no real hit, if you will, and that's one of the things I like about the game as well, because it actually like speeds up combat. This isn't one of those things where it's like, oh, roll to hit with my weapon and then see how much damage I do after I hit. The die roll, whether you're using red or black dice when you roll for your weapons, depending upon what type of weapon it is and the powers that it has, like that die roll itself is the to hit, right? It'll like, there's blanks on the dice that will show you that do no damage. There's low damage results that the players will be able to nullify, things like that. So I do like that. But so in this situation, we're going to roll these 3 dice. I apologize. You roll 5 dice. I misread. I was thinking about the level 1 repair. So rolling 5 dice, we're going to try to see if we can get 3 gears, and we're going to be able to remove that particular damage. I did. So look at that. So I can go 1, 2. I've never rolled this lucky before. It's always like in front of the camera. So 3 gears, and then what I could do then is I could remove that crit from my Lancer, and that would make it, obviously help it out a little bit and make it survive a little bit longer on the battlefield. All right, so the last thing I wanted to touch on, as I said, is I wanted to kind of go over, this is by no means an exhaustive list of like the different things that you can have as far as your loadouts go, but I wanted to just kind of express to you just how varied and how many different things you can have. I mean, all of these are different towers, and there's even more. I'm not even showing you all the different possibilities you can have. There's tons of different weapons, like back blasts, phalanx missiles, crossbows, velocity cannons. Then you can for shields for your vehicles that don't have shields. Overdrive. So if you want to be able to adjust the speed, so if you have a slow thing and you want to basically give it more movement ability, you have the ability to do that. Auto targets to make it so it's easier for you and the other vehicles in your unit to be able to attack the particular items that you have. Batteries to give power, EMP mines, overdrive, an object builder, basically that would allow you to build a terrain out on the board as well. There are so many different options in this game, so many different things you can do, and so many different varied strategies that you can adopt. It goes without saying that the game just gives you a myriad of choices and allows you to kind of develop your own style of play and be rewarded for it as well. The game's just super awesome to play, super fun to play, super fun to just design your loadout, super fun to just be competitive and have a good time playing. And it doesn't take forever, right? I mean, yes, you can play games with tons of points and the game can last quite a long time, but a small little skirmish game like this is over relatively quickly, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. And especially if you don't do a death match and you do an actual a specific campaign of capture the flag or something like that. Those objective scenarios can be over relatively quickly. All of this combined, just in the fact that it kind of reminded me a great deal of games I used to play when I was younger. This game hit all cylinders for me, and something that I really, really enjoyed. But I'll delineate that and I'll explain that in a little bit more detail in my final thoughts. All right, thank you very much for taking the time to watch that overview of the gameplay. Obviously, that was a very, very small little skirmish, and that's actually a 5-point game, as I said. There's no limit to how many points you would want to play. I mean, depending upon how many units you have, how many people you were playing the game at that time, you could go, okay, let's play a 20-point game. Obviously, the more points you add, the more units you're going to add, the longer the game is going to be. And I kind of miss those days, those Saturdays where all my homework was done and I was just be like, okay, Mom, you're not going to see me all day long. I'm going to leave the house at 9 or 10 a.m. I'm going to head over to my buddy's house where all my other friends are going to be. And we're going to play Battletech for 12 hours. And just vanish, or better yet, we're gonna play Car Wars for 12 hours. We're each gonna spend 8 hours making our cars, and then they're gonna get blown up in 5 minutes once we hit the arena, stuff like that. But anyway, enough travel down the memory road here. I want to actually talk about Battlescars. All right, I've already gushed enough, I think, about the initiative system, but I mean, in case it just doesn't click really well for you, it's one of those things where it is very strategic, especially if you have pass cards. If you are in a situation where you have to decide, when do I pass, right? Do I let somebody else move possibly into range and then I take my turn and then I gamble that maybe my card is higher than the ones that my opponent has? Because remember, you're handing out more pass cards than you have possible activation. So, if you have, in the situation I had where we had 1 through 8, if you have an 8, when you play that, you're going to go first, right? So you might want to hold out and wait. And parenthetically, if you have a 1 or whatever, I mean, where you stand. But everything in the middle, you don't know. I mean, and the thing is that especially when there's for losing initiative, the fact that you actually do get a bonus of either being able to reposition one of your vehicles or being able to repair damage that one of your vehicles has. There's actually something really good about going second and not being first. And so I love the fact that not only does the map, you can't see the map, but the map's right here. Not only does the map and that you're playing on have a great deal in effect upon the decisions you're going to make as far as the positions you have. The status of each one of your vehicles and where they're at and what they're doing and whether or not they've been activated yet in that particular turn matters a great deal as well. All right, I just love the initiative system. I wish, it's probably be horrible to say this, but I wish that more games like this incorporated an initiative system like that, and I could definitely see me house ruling some of my old other miniatures combat games to include something like that. I've already gone over the modular aspect. There's just something really cool about being able to swap things out on the fly and being able to do that. I talked very, very briefly about the fact that you have these team captains as well. And, this is kind of, this is definitely an Ameritrash game, right? But, the whole variable player powers thing, if you're a board game enthusiast, that's a very Euro game thing going on. And I do like the fact that you're able to modify your team a little bit as well with the leader that you have. Some of these obviously will just, kind of appeal to people more than others. The one that I really like, that appeals to me, I think it's, there's this one called Oddhild. And once per round, when attack would deal damage, apply 2 additional damage, to the target round. So that's just one of those things that's really cool. It's like, oh, okay, and I'm just gonna do 2 extra damage, just because whatever, and you're able to do that. And then knockout, the one, and as I said, they have a once per game type of situation where it says knockout, when attack would deal damage, make the damage unaffected by damage reducing actions or effects. So that's your little ace in the hole that you can hold on to and spring, if you will. Now, my buddy Craig, when we played this, he's always about the rerolls. And so there's one Dharma, which is lucky once per round you may reroll a die that has not been modified. So okay, you can just reroll that die, and have another shot at a better chance. And then her. I should probably just maybe hold that up for you so you can see. And her once per game is after rolling, you may change one of your dice on a die that has not been modified to any result. And so that can be your oh crap button. It's like, oh geez, I really need a defense roll here. That sort of thing. So I like the fact that these leaders, now you can play without these if you don't want to use them. I think they add a lot to the game, and they actually add some immersion and some just cool aspects to it. And just, you can also obviously this game could have any theme. It doesn't have to be this corporation world that you're playing in. You could say it was Cyberpunk world or Mad Max world or whatever. The theme is, for the most part, interchangeable. I do believe that the designer and the publisher, they are going to dive into the world a great deal and write a lot of the lore. And I think that's cool. I remember reading all the old Mech Warrior background books for Battletech, and it made Battletech that much more interesting for me. The old Steve Jackson Games Auto-Do quarterlies and things like that with the fiction and the stories, based in those worlds. Stuff that I really liked as well, so kudos to them for putting that stuff in there. But again, theme, this is robots and Mad Max cars and what have you, beating each other up for glory, and which for me, that's enough. I mean, if the backstory and the world really makes it clue in for you, and more power to you, right? But for me, it's the action. It's the dice rolls. I love these big chunky dice. I hope the game comes with these big chunky dice. And as a video guy, being able to have these big chunky dice and roll that you can just see, that was actually really helpful. I mean, I don't know if that was done on purpose or not, but I really did appreciate that. But this is a game about figuring out the best possible situation, getting your your vehicles in the spots they need to be, and then, just giving yourself the best possible chance at winning, and then rolling some dice and seeing what happens. And there's just something about that has always appealed to me, and it's just always been a type of game that I've really liked. I remember when the designer asked me how my first game went, I said it was just like I was back in my parents' basement playing this with my buddies, because we used to play on the pool table my parents had in the basement. That's where we put our battle mechs and stuff like that, and we put our terrain. And I felt like I was just kind of transported back there, even though I was, playing it with my daughter and my son. But it was a really cool, nice feeling. It was really interesting to me. A couple other things that I really liked, just remarks upon the design that I really enjoyed. I love the fact that speed is important. That being on the go and constantly moving and constantly scooting around gives you extra bonuses to defend yourself and to avoid damage, so that it rewards people that are being a very moving target and constantly around you. You're not going to have situations where people are just going to squat in a spot and just be like this little, like, basically laser turret that just sits in a spot and like tries to get cover around them or whatever, and tries to avoid damage. I love the fact that the mechanisms of the game themselves inspire you to be a mobile unit. I like the fact that the game itself, as far as the different weapons, they're just all over the place. As far as, it would be really easy. It's like, this is a machine gun, and this is a cannon, and this is a rocket, and this is, that would have been really, really easy to do. But the fact that they've actually gone out and tried to make, like, really cool off-the-wall weapons as well, kind of was very, very cool and inspiring. And, like, because they weren't just like, hey, point the gun this way, shoot it, see if it works, the fact that they made them in such a way that they made it, I don't know, not so much difficult, but just make it actually, you have to be in the right spot and give yourself a good chance and be at the right range and everything like that. It makes the players themselves just try harder to, be better players and be better at the game. So that's something I really liked as well. All in all, like I said, it's a game that it was exactly what I thought it was going to be, and that meant it was a heck of a lot of fun. And I would play this over and over again. It scratches all the right itches for me. And win, lose, or draw, you come out of the game with stories about, oh man, it's like when I absolutely positively needed that defense roll, I got it. Or when I desperately needed as good as possible critical hit or whatever, I got it. Or man, oh man, oh man, I can't believe I absolutely positively needed 3 damage, I only did 2. Things like that are the ones that, like, you remember those moments, and you remember. I have Car Wars games that I still remember to this day. I can remember, like, every single bit of them and how inspiring and how awesome they were. And this is those games that, like, my son has come up and talked to me about it after the fact, like, oh, remember when my robot was able to blow up your car and things like that. So it's definitely something that it's just the right type of game for me. And I think that if this is the type of game, if you were like me and you played that stuff when you were younger, or you play that stuff now, and I realize I'm old, I'm almost 49 years old, but if you play that stuff now, this is something you're gonna want to check out, and you're gonna want to have a copy and play it at your own table. So there you go. Battlescars, awesome game. check it out. Go to the Kickstarter page. If you have any questions about the game at all, or comments or whatever, ask away. I'll try to answer those as best as I can. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. I'd appreciate it even more if you took some time to go ahead and hit the old like button, or the subscribe button, or comment, or whatever. That'd be awesome. But until next time, as I said, I'm the Undead Viking of the board game world. Just try to be the best version of you that you possibly can be from here on out. That's all you can ask of yourself. And if you can go to bed each night saying, yeah, I tried real hard to be the best version of me I could be, then, hey, you're winning. So just keep doing that. I'll keep doing it. And this world will be a better place each and every day. All right, take care. Bye-bye.